Hi, I'm Julian, part of the leadership of Gordena Valley Church. We've been spending some time doing some short devotionals looking at the life of David and also at some of his Psalms. And Liz, my wife, and I have been spending time reading through the Psalms together, and it's such a blessing, particularly at a time of great challenge and uncertainty caused by the effects of the virus. It's propelled us into very much the unknown. And I'm reminded of Joshua's words in Joshua 3, verse 4, where he said, "We've not been this way before." And we haven't. We're in uncharted territory. But we have the great comfort of knowing that Jesus is walking with us through this time. And as we read through the Psalms, we see time and time again that David had put his confidence, faith, and trust in God, whatever his circumstances. And for us, the Psalms are incredibly real and honest. And David doesn't pull any punches in his relationship with God. They are raw in emotion, but they're also rich in encouragement for us too. So I want to just spend a little time, very short time, looking at Psalm 3, which we looked at a few days ago in our private devotional times. So Psalm 3. Lord, how many are my foes? How many rise up against me? Many are saying of me, God will not deliver him. But you, Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. I call out to the Lord, and he answers me from his holy mountain. I lie down and sleep. I wake again, because the Lord sustains me. I will not fear, though tens of thousands assail me on every side. Arise, Lord, deliver me, my God. Strike all my enemies on the jaw, break the teeth of the wicked. From the Lord comes deliverance. May your blessing be on your people. And King David was in a terrible situation. His whole world was falling apart. Many of his friends were deserting him. His family was falling apart. His son Absalom was conspiring against him with thousands of troops, and there were many other awful events in his life. And David's whole life was upside down, and he and his whole household fled into the wilderness in isolation. This was a life-challenging and a life-altering experience for him. And he called out to God, "How many are my enemies? How many are rising up against me? There are tens of thousands opposing me on every side," he cried out. Seems a bit like that at the moment, doesn't it, as we are faced with this invisible virus? Not just tens of thousands, but multiple billions. And it's turned our lives upside down as a consequence. And perhaps even worse, it may be invisible, but it isn't faceless, because we catch it from one another. So social distancing has changed our relationships one with another for the time being. But however challenging these times are, we have some incredible opportunities to experience and share God's love. And in Psalm 3, David shows us and emphasizes three important things. Number one, the priority of prayer. David cried aloud to God, and God answered him. He knew God as his shield. In the Bible, we see shield is often referred to as the shield of faith. He knew what it was to trust in and have confidence in God. And this time should bring a richness and an urgency into our prayer lives as we practice the presence of God each day. The second thing from Psalm 3 is the promise of peace. God sustained David through these tough times, and David knew God's peace. We read that he slept well despite everything, and God woke him afresh for a new day. His confidence in God meant that he was not fearful. We can know the peace that Jesus brings and promises us as we place ourselves in his hands. And thirdly, there was a plea for protection. David asked God to deliver him, to rescue him, to save him, and we need to look to God for his protection and deliverance for ourselves and our churches and our communities and our nation and our world. Liz and I read Psalm 18 together yesterday. And David said this from verse 16 onwards. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from my foes who were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my disaster, but the Lord was my support. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. And in verse 35, David says of God, you stoop down to make me great. And that's what Jesus did, of course, coming into our world for us. So in the midst of these extraordinary times that we live in, let's make prayer a priority, asking him to walk with us through these tough times and live in confidence and trust. Let's live in the promise of the sustaining peace that he can give and not live in fear. And let's continually ask him for his protection and his deliverance, that he would reach down and draw us up out of deep waters like we're experiencing at the moment. And let's take God-given opportunities, maybe in unusual ways, to share the good news of the gospel message, a message of hope and a message of a future with the one who stooped down into our world to rescue us and give us an eternal future beyond our present circumstances. Bless you all and keep safe. Bye.